Good morning and welcome to the Monday Call brought to you by NZ Funds. I'm Stefan Clark, Chief Client Officer, and I'm joined by Chris Wasley, Commercial Director at the firm. Kieran Read is more than a rugby player. He is a strategic thinker who overcame many obstacles to achieve a remarkable goal. Twice. Kieran won back-to-back Rugby World Cups and captained the All Blacks to 19 consecutive Test wins, a world record. The mindset and personal attributes that Kieran developed are very similar to those needed by investors to achieve a fully funded retirement. Today, we'll be speaking with Kieran about the valuable lessons and the leadership skills he learned as captain and the importance of goal setting and the team support in achieving long-term objectives. We've recently been on a roadshow with Kieran, visiting centres across New Zealand in which NZ Funds has offices. And Kieran, it's really great to see you again.
Hasn't been long. Morning, guys. It's awesome to be here. Yeah. It was a pretty intense couple of weeks, wasn't it? Brilliant.
It was indeed. Okay, hey, we're going to kick off. Chris is going to start the show, introduction aside, and then we'll launch into it.
Righto. Welcome, Kieran. As we said on the road show, we've done our homework. We've read the famous book. We've done our YouTube and our Googling and found the perfect introduction for you. It was written by Scotty Stevenson, who's the same person who wrote your book with you. And I thought it was ideal. It was an interview, obviously, he had with you, and this is how he introduced you to the interview. I'll read it out. He said, "He's still physically imposing, but the playing bulk is gone now. His lean face is mostly a smile. His curly hair is clipped short, exaggerating ears scarred by seasons spent between the thighs of large men. Put it this way, he won't be getting AirPods for Christmas. He played at 3 World Cups and won 2 of them. What did he learn?" So let's find out. But before we do, let's just start with the elephant in the room, Kieran. When I was first asked if I would look at doing this roadshow with you, the All Blacks had just lost to South Africa in a record score as a warm-up game to the World Cup. We then proceeded to lose to France in the first round of the World Cup. So I thought, well, this is an easy start. So I wrote down what went wrong. But then, of course, we turned things around. And after we beat Ireland and then we got through to the final, I thought I'll be brave here and I'll write down instead what went right. As it turned out, we fell a bit short. So instead of saying what went wrong, Kieran, I'll ask you what nearly went right. How did you see it?
Yeah, I think we did a lot right in that World Cup campaign. I think if you look at it, there wasn't too many probably New Zealanders who thought we would have made the final, let alone get a chance to win it. And so, yeah, plenty right. Most definitely, I think the coaching group did a fantastic job. And the players really stepped up, I think, throughout the tournament. You know, probably the frustrating thing from the players' point of view and the coaches will be that it got to that final game and we probably didn't put out our best performance, right? And so had the opportunity in the final to get over the line and didn't quite make it. But unfortunately, that's sport, and I've been in that position before as well. And, you know, you got to turn up on the day and perform, and it doesn't always happen. You put all the effort in to try and make it. So that was awesome to see, you know, put under so much pressure in that final, and the effort and character that the guy showed was huge. So a lot to be proud of, but certainly probably some what ifs and frustration from the players, I'm sure, for the foreseeable future.
Yep, it was from a New Zealand supporter perspective highly frustrating that despite the fact that the TMO calls seemed to go against us, we still had the opportunity to actually win the game.
Yeah, we won't go there, will we? We'll be spend the whole podcast on the TMO if we go there, Chris.
It was a very common question on our roadshow, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah.
Just so you know, Kieran, actually similar to the roadshow, the people who are likely to be listening to the call that you're on now, we've got our professional partners. So they are lawyers, accountants, mortgage advisors, insurance advisors, and financial planners. We also have clients of NZ Funds and NZ Funds Private Wealth who'll be tuning in, and others. So, through this call, what we're going to try and do is build a bridge between the rugby world, business, and investments. So, obviously, there's a lot of parallels there, and but what we'll do is we'll kick off with goals and goal setting. And because I guess every good business should have goals that they're aspiring to. And when we meet new clients for the first time, our first question is to ask them about what their goals are, not just for the money that they might want to invest, but for their future lifestyle. How can we recommend an investment strategy if we don't know what it is that the clients ultimately want to achieve in their lives? So having goals is essential when it comes to investing. Unfortunately, too many people just invest and see where they end up. I read, or rather, actually, Chris, in this particular case, read that Barbara Kendall was who got you thinking about goals. And obviously, she's a very prominent individual. Tell us about that. Tell us about your experience with Barbara Kendall, about your goal of becoming an All Black, and how that evolved through time.
Yeah, look, I went to a non-sporting school, I guess you could call it, in Counties Manukau. Papakura, it was Roseville College, and it was a pretty big school. It was 2,000 kids, co-ed school, high school. And as I said, there wasn't too much sport that was focused on in the school. Like, we scraped together our first 15 rugby team. We had a few other individual sport stars, I guess, or people of promise. A trampolinist, I remember. I think maybe a hockey player, basketballer. Just a few individual people who excelled in their sports, but didn't really have too much in terms of our teams and what was happening at the school. So, I can probably one PE teacher at the school, James Fraser was his name. He had a massive impact on my life, let alone my rugby career and getting it started. He kind of said to the school, can we set up an elite sports program? So he plucked all us together. There's probably half a dozen to 10 of us who would meet maybe once a month together. And he got in different speakers to come and talk to us about, say, nutrition or conditioning, what it takes to be, an athlete in the world now. So had some awesome opportunities there, which we wouldn't normally get. And one of those speakers was Barbara Kendall. And yeah, she came in, talked to us about goal setting and essentially, Barbara Kendall's a Olympic champion, New Zealander, which was amazing, in board sailing. And so she said to us, write down your goals, what do you want to achieve in sport? And so I was playing rugby, and it was kind of a case of, well, what's the biggest goal I can write, which was to be an All Black. But to be a great All Black, I wrote down on a piece of paper, and then we set it out to our the rest of the guys in the group. And I think Barbara was like, oh, it would be awesome just to be an All Black, wouldn't it? And I was like, yeah, well, if I'm going to be there, it's push the boundaries, right? And she got that, because she didn't just turn up to the Olympics, did she? She was there to go and win the thing, right? Be the best in the world. So it kind of set me on the stage in terms of goals. And that wasn't really a goal, that's a dream, right? It's an aspiration for me, but you get there through ticking off a few different things along the way. And certainly it probably just gave me a little insight into how I can do that. And I was never a big one for having a 5-year plan or whatever it was in the future too much, but I knew I had to specific, real clear goals for the finite little future for me that really helped me improve. And I think that time at school at Roseville College really helped me and kind of, really probably set that dream alive.
It's interesting to see that you wrote in your book that you actually don't write goals down, but you're very strong on visualization. So how's that helped you?
Yeah, it's true. It's like, for me, coming from Roseville, I didn't know about these teams I could make, really. I was just playing the game because I loved it for a long time. And then I made a couple of teams, counties, into northern regions, into New Zealand secondary schools in my last year at school. And so, I think for myself, it was an aspiration to try and be better every day. And I knew if I worked really hard and did that, then certainly I could tick off a few things along the way. But I didn't necessarily write down that goal of making this team or that team. But I guess the visualization part of that for me helped, was that you could kind of really see a clear picture of what you wanted to achieve. And so I would look at how I could play and performances and how I'd play on the weekend. And essentially that's setting myself up and to achieve those certain goals or those performances that I wanted to put out there. Used that early on in terms of making teams, and then later on it was a case of wanting to play well on the field. And physically, maybe you can't do it all day at training, right? You can't be smashing your body every day. So the work you do off the field and setting your mind up to perform became really crucial.
Great. So Kieran, now you've set your goals. The next step is to put in place the building blocks to actually achieve those goals. And the first one that Stefan and I thought was important was determination. There's no point having goals if you're not really determined to achieve them. And it seems from reading your book that you've got determination in absolute spades. And a lot of that, you may claim a lot of that's attributed to your genes, but from reading the book, it seems to me that your older brother, Gareth, can take a lot of credit for helping you build up your determination. I'm going to just read a quote from the book because I think it's priceless. It says, older brother Gareth was constantly engaged in the kind of fraternal benchmarking that invariably ended in arguments, property damage, or tears, and on many occasions all three. Gareth revelled in his role of tormentor-in-chief, running the spectrum from simmering older sibling to short-fused psychopath. In turn, I threw myself into my one key brotherly function, to move him from the former end to the latter in the quickest possible time. It was the easiest job of my life. So tell us about those formative years back in Papakura that helped you to develop that really strong will to win.
Yeah, most definitely had an awesome childhood. I was only under 2 years below my older brother Gareth. Had a younger brother Mark as well, who's a bit younger than us. So look, it was a typical Kiwi childhood. It felt back then. We lived on a cul-de-sac in Papakura. It was spent outside. Come home from school, Mum would kick you out of the house, and you'd kick a ball around until dinner time, basically, or until it got dark. So, for me, being the younger brother, I wanted to always compete against the older bro. I wanted to play in his games that he was doing. He didn't always appreciate too much of that, I don't think, for a while. And essentially, as it's said, there's certainly times where if he got hold of me, he'd certainly let me know in no uncertain terms, in terms of keeping me on my toes. So, look, it was a case, I think, seeing my older brother doing things out on either at home with his mates or on the sporting field, that I wanted to try and achieve those things right then, right? I didn't want to wait another 2 years to be doing it. So he signed up for rugby at 6. And so I made mum and dad sign me up when I was 4, So I played in a few of his teams growing up too, when he was short. If I was one player short, they'd call me in and I could fill in for his teams he played in for different sports. So, look, it just was something I really wanted to test myself, and that determination comes from that competitiveness. And he wouldn't necessarily always want me to be competing with him. So, yeah, sitting in the backyard, there was plenty of tears when he'd get hold of me and beat me up a little bit. But, I always reveled that kind of competitiveness, and I had a drive to really want to, do my best every time. So, it certainly has some aspects. I guess it's one piece of the puzzle in terms of creating that real drive and internal determination within me.
The other interesting thing is you played at number 8, of course, and so you would have come up against some of the biggest boys on a rugby field. And I assume from those years, playing against or with some of his mates who are a lot bigger than you would have helped you develop the fortitude that you needed to play against the bigger players.
Yeah, 100%. I think, I guess playing against older kids at a certain age helps you in some ways. You got to make sure that you can handle that stuff, and I think it does help you playing. For me in my rugby, I love tackling. I wasn't the biggest guy. I was the skinny white guy living in South Auckland, but always prided myself on trying to take down the biggest guy in the opposition. So I really enjoyed the physicality part of it. Not that I was very physical outside of rugby, really, but The other thing was I played senior cricket at 14, so I was playing against men, I guess, at that age, and that's probably more psychological than physical, but it helps prepare you, for what's potentially coming. So yeah, all those things kind of add up, and you don't know at the time that. The cool thing was actually at the end, for how much G kind of really pushed me, and I pushed him a lot over the age. By the time I made first 15 at Rosehill in fifth form in year 11, he was his last year at school, and he was captain of the first 15, and he captained me. So that was pretty cool, and he kind of realised that I was pretty good, and I was useful to him. So yeah, he took me under his wing, which is great.
I've got two young boys, and their relationship sounds very similar to yours with Gareth, but hopefully it moves to a place as yours did in time. And,
I'm sure it will. Yeah.
Hey, I read that you've chucked your support behind Voices for Hope for the Voices for Hope campaign, which aims to shine the spotlight on mental health in the world of sport. And their aim is to highlight the importance of seeking support and reminding everyone that it's not too late to rewrite your story. You were interviewed by One News, and you made reference to something called imposter syndrome. That's quite a common term now. Maybe then it wasn't. But what is this, and how did you turn it into something positive during your career in sport?
Yeah, awesome. Like Voices of Hope are great. That's about giving anyone a bit of hope. Really, everyone's story is different. Everyone goes through down times at certain stages, but be prepared to voice it and seek help if you need to. So easy to get behind that campaign from my point of view. And imposter syndrome, I guess it's something that literally everyone will face at some point in their lives, right? It's going to high school for the first time and thinking, oh, shit, is this where I belong? Or, making a team, making the All Blacks for the first time, right? You're a young player. Do I truly belong here? So that's basically what it is, going into a new job, a new role, not knowing exactly what you're doing and thinking, oh, do I belong in this role, and can I do it justice? So essentially that's what it is. I think we all face it. If we let it really and hinder us, then it can kind of keep us down and not let us shine. But I guess we use it in the right way, and I think that's what I did. Across my career, I kind of always felt I was that kid from Rosehill College, from counties, who wasn't in the big schools. I didn't grow up in the academies and things and camps that guys were going to. So I always felt like when I started making a few teams, not a real imposter, but I just felt like I maybe had to really prove myself. And so that whole kind of feeling of did I belong really motivated me to work really hard, to put everything I could to try and make sure that if I got an opportunity, I could nail it. So certainly I carried that with me through the teams I made throughout my career.
It's interesting, Kieran, when we went on the road show and you talked about imposter syndrome, I said afterwards, that's something we can all relate to. It's amazing how many heads nodded in the audience in each of the centres that we're at. So it very much is something. And I think the big message that we take from what you've just said is use it to your advantage. So well done there. So another building block is basically overcoming setbacks. And you've had many setbacks through your rugby career. You've either broken or damaged toes, ankles, thumbs, wrists, your back, and you've even had concussion concerns. And of course, these are physical setbacks. They then lead on to mental setbacks. So what skills have you learned over the years from your rugby career and how to overcome these setbacks?
Yeah, I guess when you look at it in that way, there's been quite a few injuries and things that tested you throughout your career. I guess if you're playing, your job is to go out and be able to perform and be out there on the field. And when you can't do that, it can be a testing time. And physically, I never had a problem too much, but yeah, it's definitely the mental challenge when you get put in these situations that is a tough thing. I did my ACL at 18, right? So I was out of the game. Well, I wasn't playing any. I was just playing club rugby and things like that. But out of the game for 12 months. And, as a young player, you think, man, if I can't play for 12 months, that's my career done. And so you go through a bit of, tough times. And I didn't know how you got out of it then. Time always heals, and having some patience helps. Leaning on the professional people in whatever field you're in. So in terms of injuries, it was doctors and physios. Getting a real clear plan in place, structure helped. But in the wider sense, I think in terms of an individual, I learned across my career that if we can present ourselves in certain ways, before we hit adversity, before we hit a setback, then we're going to bounce out of it quickly. So it's really our resilience piece. So Wayne Smith was pretty key on this, and a few other coaches. So I'd call it my three things, and it's a growth mindset, being really optimistic, and having a huge amount of gratitude. So growth mindset really is really a mindset of, I can get better. If I make a mistake today, I'll work on it, and tomorrow I turn up and I'll be able to do a better job. It's not wallowing in that. It's not saying this is who I am. I'm going to be judged on this thing here. No, I can improve and keep improving. Optimism. So that's learning optimism. I think it's a lot of people think we're one way or the other, glass half empty, glass half full, but we can actually reframe and retrain our mind to look at things in just a more positive light. And it's not just being positive, the happy clappy positive all the time. It is genuinely looking at thoughts come into your head. What if I stuff up this meeting or whatever it is? But then you just got to find it, and that's natural. It's all good for those thoughts to come in. But let's reframe that into what will happen when I nail this meeting. That type of thing. As around the optimism and around being grateful. It's a key word nowadays. But essentially, it's putting perspective on your life, right? For us, it could be, grateful just to turn up at work and I've got my best mates there. I can have a laugh with them, or, it's as simple as waking up in the morning and seeing the sun come up, right? So being grateful for those things puts things in perspective, and you realize that, hey, this little thing I'm going through, maybe I can work my way through it a bit easier, and she won't wallow so long. So, yeah, that's probably when I look at setbacks, resilience, it's that, growth mindset, optimism, and being really grateful, I think really helps.
So the acronym, using an old-fashioned term, is GROG. Growth, optimism, gratitude. That's the one. Yeah. So if we use an investment analogy, Kieran, as a former advisor, I used to always say investing is like climbing a mountain. You never go straight up a mountain. In fact, I've never seen a mountain that goes straight up. You have dips, you have gullies, you have plateaus, you even have crevasses. But if you are investing for the long term, you just have to keep going. You have to ride through those down periods, and eventually you'll get to the top. And there are times when investment markets will be down more than what people might be comfortable with, or for longer than what people are comfortable with. But at the end of the day, if you stick with it, stay the course, you'll eventually achieve your goal. And I remember reading in your book, you said, I have been to the top of the mountain and I will climb out of this valley. I refuse to live down here. So how did you do that? How did you continue to focus on that long-term goal and stay the course no matter what?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of what we talked about earlier around that whole drive and motivation and what you have, but also, for me, it was, I had a couple of things that really drove me to be better, right? And it's your why and why you turn up and why you get out of bed to try and do what you do. So for me, it was my family was key. I wanted to, really show them that I could work really hard and do something really positive for them. And then also I had this, I had a real internal drive to get better. And so that drove me, it motivated myself to get up and do the work. And so it didn't really matter if, things didn't go away, a loss or whatever it was. I think it's the way you bounce back is a crucial thing. And if you've got this thing really guiding me, which I had, then it was easy on those tough times to get out of bed and do that extra session, do the extra rep or whatever was needed to get myself ready for the game. And I guess that's an individual thing within a team as well, in a business, whatever it is, leaders group. You need to find some connection as well that will help you. And so teams I was involved in all the time was how can we find that connection piece? What can bring us together? Was it a vision of our group? Was it a theme? How do we ensure that we're totally connected, all on the same page, going in the same direction? And so did that through certain things, but I think for us it was around connecting to who we were as people, so our values and our past, our history, and then also looking at where we wanted to go. So kind of our future, our vision, what it would look like there. So that's how we kept ourselves moving forward.
You mentioned family. The last building block for achieving goals that we wanted to cover off was the support team that's around you. And at NZ Funds, we pride ourselves on having a world-class team. And at last count, there was 13 departments, all focused on helping our clients. You've had the good fortune of also being a member of a number of fantastic teams, starting with what we'll call Team Read, being the Read family, who you mentioned. You've got your mother, your father, your older brother, G or Gareth, younger brother, Mark, and secondly, your lovely wife, Bridget, and 3 young children. Actually, why we're here, is it true that one of your daughters is named after your favourite rugby ground?
Potentially, although my wife will say it's not, because she never wants to give me that amount of credit. But one of my favourite ground is Eden Park, and my daughter's named Eden. So yeah, maybe we'll see. Depends who we're talking to.
Well, it's good it's not Twickenham or Caketon or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway. Then you were a member of Canterbury and the Crusaders teams, and of course the ABs. Tell us how those teams shaped you into being the person you are today and kept you on track. And I guess the key part of it is the people around you.
Yeah, 100%. I think the teamness of sport, there's so many good things that come out of sport in that sense. Understanding how you work as a team, the roles that are needed, that are different, but are so required for an end goal to be achieved. And it translates right into anything really around business in the business world. So look, I kind of look back at me being a young guy. I was 19. I was invited to go down to Christchurch into the academy. Canterbury Academy, and so the academy at that point shared the gym with the Crusaders, right? So we both work out in the same gym, and so my first session, I walk in and I'm doing my workout and walking through the gym. There goes Dan Carter, Richie McCaw, Ruben Thorne, Justin Marshall, all these legends of the game, All Blacks, Crusaders, and like I'd never seen that thing before, right? And so ethos of team is, it doesn't matter if you're the top star in the group or this young guy who isn't even nowhere near even the team right now. You're connected in a really special way, and so the team first mentality came out really strongly for me early on. And the key with that is that the senior guys, the older guys who have experience, have gone through ups and downs. It's their job to help the new guys come through and be better versions of what they were. And so, I had some awesome support from I was loose forward, so most of the loose forwards in Crusaders, so Mosse Tuiliti, Richie, Johnny, those blokes who would help me. And then, it's a cyclical thing where, by the time I get a bit more experience, I'm helping out the next generation. And our legacy, we talked about the legacy not being, what you did in the jersey, but it's what the next generation's doing in that jersey. If you've done your job right, then the group that takes over from you should be performing really well. So the creating teams and how you do that is a special part of what I've learned over my career.
Brilliant. So a key component of team support, Kieran, is leadership. So let's just talk about leadership for a wee while here. If we go way back to high school days, that's when you first met your wife, Bridget. And I read that she said at the time when she first met you, you were horrendously shy. Those were her words, horrendously shy. And you also said in your book that you seem to have a recollection of spending a lot of your time in tears in your childhood days. So how did a young, skinny boy from Papakura, who was horrendously shy, prone to tears, transition into being one of the greatest leaders world rugby has ever seen? How did you manage to do that?
Yeah, look, I don't know, and I don't think it. As you said, I don't think I ever thought I'd be in any position of leadership or be able to get up in front of people and speak and do that as a captain of a sports team, let alone what I do now in my business in terms of getting in front of people as well and public speaking and delivering keynotes and all that. So it's a process, right? I think, there's always something potentially inbuilt in me. It was built off the values that I was given early on, around the people around me. But I didn't lead any of these junior kind of All Black rugby teams, under 19s, under 21s. I was just the bit part team player, did my best for the team, and I was able to watch and learn and listen. And I was pretty analytical in my mind, and I think that really helped me. It kind of meant that I'd watch captains and coaches and say, oh, look, that thing was really good. I'd do that, or no, I probably would do that maybe a bit differently. And so, look, I just, would pick up on things. I think coming from where I was, I never had the confidence in my own ability to speak up, and early on in my career. So very quiet, but coaches and, some pretty key people in my life saw something in me that I didn't at the time. So I think that was the key, right? Is that the leaders around me had confidence in my ability, and then they had to find a way to help me build my own confidence. And they did that through giving me opportunities. And one was at 22, I was named captain of Canterbury NPC team. And so that's just a classic one where I was like, thought I was well out of my depth then, had experienced guys around me. And I made so many mistakes and tried to be someone I wasn't early on, and didn't quite know how I had to act, being this captain. But, had an awesome opportunity to learn, and that year is a bit out of the spotlight, I guess. In some ways it's not very well coverage in the media, but I learned different things in that time. So yeah, it gave me a great opportunity to learn, and I guess from there it just progressed, gave me a little taste of leadership and captaincy, and then it just moved on from there.
And you learned how to toss the coin properly?
Well, I did by the time I'd finished. Yeah, my first toss of the coin in a pre-season game against Wellington. I think it was Piri Weepu was captain, and I think I'll say I had my thumb strapped, so I've got an excuse. But I tried to toss the coin, and it kind of just rolled off, and then just kept going and went under the toilet stall. And so I just said, mate, you can choose what you want to do. He was cracking up.
I was interested to discover that Graham Henry asked you to do the lineouts very early in your career with the ABs, and that it's a really important role, and it must have been a big boost to your leadership, sense of leadership at the time, and your confidence. In your book, you described it as a chance to do something that was truly transformational. Tell us why you said that, and how it led to this term, the Teabag, winning the World Cup in 2021.
So I think it was 2009. So I started into 2008. So about a year into my career, I'd only played maybe 10 games at the time, or if that. And our line-out had gone pretty poorly. 2009, we lost to South Africa 3 times, and so coaches had a big change of roles and things, Ted came into coaching the forwards, and I think it was, I don't know, it was the case of the last man standing, but he said to me, look, you're going to run the lineouts. They'd seen something in me, I guess, and I hadn't done it before, but it was a case of utilising, I guess, some strengths that I had, which was a strong sense of strategy. I could analyse things and had a calm head on my shoulders, I guess, to be able to call lineouts in the game. And so it required a bit of analysis of the opposition, say on a Sunday night. It required, teaching the guys on a Monday, the lineouts and going through the calls with them, making sure we're getting it right. And then obviously on the weekend, on the game day, you're calling the lineouts and where it's going. So it was a great way for me to learn a bit of, to test myself in that leadership space, which is, as I continue to mention, it wasn't, a real big part of the game. No one knew it was happening, but, I could have influence, right? And so it was huge, and I enjoyed it. Came up with this calling system that I used throughout my whole career. And calling systems and lineouts are kind of, you work hard to try and crack the opposition's code, and you need a code that no one can crack. And no one cracked our code over the 10 years that I was calling, and so I'm pretty sure the All Blacks still use it now, which is awesome. So it got to the point. Yeah.
It's only Stefan and I listening.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Sig will be with us.
It's like the Enigma code, mate. Don't want to let anyone in on the secret. So, I guess for me it was a case of we got to opportunity to work lineouts and bring that into the game, and then so get to 2011 World Cup final, right? And we know that teabag, a lineout move, and Tony Woodcock scores the try. So most games I'd come up with like a special play. I'd look at the opposition and go, they defend like this. We should do something a bit different, right? Bring it down and go through the middle or around the front or the back or whatever it looked like. And it just so happened that France was presenting a picture throughout the 2011 World Cup that was very similar every time they got in that position, in terms of putting two pods in the air and leaving a big gap in between them. And we kicked it out quite early on, and I called the line out, hoping and praying that it would come off, because it doesn't always come off, and France did exactly what we wanted them to do. Kiwi threw the perfect ball, and down to Tony Woodcock from our jumper, who went through this massive gap and ended up scoring the try that led us to winning the game. So that was a pretty awesome moment, to see all that kind of analysis and stuff that you do to come off, and alongside some of the coaches that helped me come up with it. So it was it's pretty awesome, pretty cool to kind of have that feeling.
So I'm sitting here in the Christchurch office of NZ Funds Private Wealth, and Kieran, you live in Christchurch. So sorry, Stefan, I have to raise a question about Razor. Razor was amazingly successful in building on the Crusaders' culture and team spirit. In fact, you said in your book, I loved what I was seeing. Razor had imbued the entire Crusaders organisation with some kind of Peter Pan magic. And you wrote that he had two simple organisational philosophies. One was come to work happy to be there, and the other one was whinge up. Now, I get the first one, fully understand that, but can you explain the second one, whinge up? What was he meant by that?
Yeah, Razor's a different, I guess, to a lot of coaches that have been, I think, in some ways. He's a deep thinker. He's a little slightly different, and how he operates, which is great. But whinge up essentially means that, hey, let's not let anything fester. So if you're, say, a rookie player, if you've got an opinion or something that's not going right for you, don't talk to the other rookies or guys there, because all that's going to do is create little cracks, little festering things that aren't going to help us. So talk to a senior player who can, if they can help settle it, they will. If not, they can go to the captain, who could try settle it. If not, he can go to the management or the coach, right? So basically it's a whinge up attitude. So it means that, hey, we don't let anything fester, and we do want opinions. We don't want guys to be sitting on these things that potentially they're feeling. So the only way guys are going to voice their opinions if they feel like it's going to be heard, right? And they feel like they've got something valuable to say. And so that comes through care. And that's where Razor's pretty good. He's, shows genuine care for his players. He's well connected to them, so they feel like they can, ask questions, challenge if they need to, and that's what you need in great environments. You need that real healthy conflict and kind of challenging moments. So, it's what that's all about. And I think he'll do well in the All Blacks. He's been set up really well at Crusaders, and hopefully everyone can get behind him.
I think the challenge will be, obviously he could build everything up at the Crusaders because he spent weeks and weeks, months and months with them all in one go. Not so easy for the All Blacks, I guess, because he won't have that amount of time with them.
No, it'll be different, 100% different. Like the All Blacks, you come in and you're expected to win, right? Straight away. You've got perhaps a week or two at most before you play your first test, and that's the time. So it's all about the rugby. It's all about getting them together. So, that'll be the hard thing. You've got 6 months to sit on his hands and wait and be wanting to get hold of players, and you've just got to be patient and realise the time that you've got is different. So, but yeah, he'll be great. I think he'll do a good job.
Right.
Kieran, the last thing I thought we should talk about is retirement and life after rugby for you. The main focus for NZ Funds is helping New Zealanders, Kiwis, build up their investment wealth so they can retire when they want to retire and enjoy a lifestyle through retirement that they deserve. We call this fully funded retirement. And earlier in the year, we took Nigel Latter around the country in another roadshow, and his big message along the way was that it was very important, super important, to retire to something, not from something. And to me, retirement is where you stop doing your main previous occupation and move into something else. It's not necessarily that you stop; it's just that you change. For you, your retirement from rugby was dramatic, and you'd achieved all your goals. You'd won Super Rugby titles. You'd become a great All Black. You'd captained the ABs. You'd won the World Cup twice. But there was one more goal that would have been the pinnacle for you, the icing on the cake, and that was to lead the All Blacks as a captain to win the Rugby World Cup. And it wasn't meant to be with that one, and with a gut-wrenching loss to England and Japan in 2019, it stopped things for you, I guess. And so the first question is really, how did you get over that, assuming you, in fact, have gotten over that? And then how did you set... many people haven't, Chris included.
Go on, Chris.
Yeah. Therapy, he's still working through it. And how did you put in place and think about the next stages after rugby?
Yeah, look, time heals. 2019, after that semi-final, was probably the hardest time in my rugby career, 100%. You put so much into a goal of achieving something and you don't. And as a leader, as a captain, you carry a lot more than everyone else, right? It's how it is, and that's great. It's what it should be. So, no, it hurt 100%, but in that moment, you're still the leader, right? You've got to be presenting yourself in the right way. And we're lucky we had a third, fourth playoff game. So one more chance to pull on the jersey. And every time he did that, it was pretty special. So that was a cool thing to do. I guess retirement for me, after 2019, I was lucky to play in Japan for a couple of years. Although it was a bit challenging with COVID that happened, and didn't have full seasons and didn't have the family there that I was hoping to have. But it gave me some time to transition into retirement. Well, it's retirement from one thing, as you said, and going into something else. And so I guess a few years before that, I was starting to think about what I could do. I was starting to really enjoy what leadership opportunities were coming my way, and I was enjoying exploring that space. And so I wanted to do something in that world, and I didn't quite know what it looked like. I'd studied a sports science degree and a sports coaching sports science. I got a sports science diploma, sports coaching degree, and so I wasn't too sure if I'd be using them too much, but it gave me a good sense of understanding sports. So in Japan, I did a applied management degree which really touched on the lessons and learnings that I got from my career in leadership and culture, teamwork. And so that's the basis of what I've been doing since. So yeah, really letting things kind of play out in a certain way, but this whole new business of leadership coaching, I guess consulting and giving out keynotes to businesses, corporates, and to really help them and their teams to understand. So I got some great lessons to pass on and feel like I'm really enjoying that side of things. And it's evolving. It's tough because you go from a really structured environment, which was rugby, into me set up at home and working for myself and all that autonomy back. So it's different. I enjoy that because it's really good my own time and allows me to prioritize, say, the kids, for example, in terms of getting along to watch an athletics day or something like that. I can structure my time for that. So that's really cool. And I'm enjoying it's the second career really for me. It's not really retirement. I still got a long time to go. So yeah, looking forward to, improving myself in this world.
That's fantastic. I read an article, Kieran, on a chap called Gerard Bertrand. He was a French flanker in the early 90s who became an award-winning winemaker. And he said, when it comes to lessons rugby taught me, number one is never give up, number two is leadership, and number three is team spirit. Because alone you can go faster, but together you go further. He said this is the secret of life. If you want to develop a very strong business, you need to develop leadership and team spirit, as well as respect and humility. So would you agree with this? What lessons have you taken from rugby that you're now built into your leadership courses?
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with that. I think, the mentality around rugby, which is definitely a team first game. It's a game that requires so many different skills to be blended together to create to create a performance or to finish, a try or whatever it is. It requires so many different things, and that's relevant to business. So that's the key. And I think when you look at high performance as well, for me, there's three real key pillars in that. So that's your leadership. So making sure you're getting that right in your group. It is your culture within your group. So how you build connection, how you understand who you guys really are as a group, and then the last thing is how you work together as a team. And so all that stuff comes out of my rugby learnings, and it's so relevant into I guess life and business or anything. So I personally think too, like I'm a better leader now than I was when I finished. Right at the All Blacks, I've learnt a lot. I've read a lot more. I've got that same mindset that I had when I was playing. It's like I can get better every day. I can learn something new. And so you never sit still. So yeah, still enjoying that learning part. And I think I always do that. I think that's, it keeps things really fresh.
Great. Well, we started off this chat with goal setting. We talked about the building blocks for achieving the goals. We talked about leadership. We then moved on to retirement and life after rugby. It's time for us to retire from this now. And I'm actually going to finish with a quote from an anonymous Australian, would you believe? I was looking at a Good Yarns video on YouTube where you reflect on a test match at Ellis Park against South Africa in 2013, which I think you said is one of the best games that you've ever played in. In fact, Nigel Owens, the great ref, said it's the best match that he ever refereed. And in the bottom of the YouTube videos, the various comments people have added in. And there's one there from an anonymous Australian, which I thought sums it up very nicely. And he said, I'm a Wallabies through and through, but I really admire Kieran Read. Seems very humble. I hope Kiwis don't mind if I put him up there with nobody. So that's Nobody's Perfect, as in John Eales, as one of the best I've ever seen. I like the fact that even in the heat of the battle, Kieran had a smile on his face as if he realised in that moment these were memories that he would never forget. Hard man but fair. Bouquet to you, Kieran. I salute you. So I will say ditto. In fact, I'm sure Stefan will say ditto to what our Australian friend said. Kieran, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And on behalf of Stefan and NZ Funds, I'd like to wish you well for your life after rugby and the success of your leadership courses. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Kieran. It's been lots of fun having you on the call. All right. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you again soon.
Great. All right, mate. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Enjoy the holiday, Chris.
This has been the Monday Call, brought to you by NZ Funds. New Zealand Funds Management Limited is the issuer of the NZ Funds KiwiSaver scheme, the NZ Funds Managed Superannuation Service, the NZ Funds Advised Portfolio Service, the NZ Funds Wealth Builder, and NZ Funds Income Generator. A product disclosure statement for each is available at nzfunds.co.nz. Past performance is not necessarily an indicator of future returns.